The two of you are neighbors.
We are.
You filed harassment charges.
He actually screamed outside of my unit, "I hate you." Him constantly talking into my camera or making gestures at the camera.
That's not true.
Spitting, flicking me off.
Who is that?
This is Judy Justice. Douglas Auerbach is suing his neighbor, Rachel Capron, for lost wages, false charges, attorney fees, and harassment.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
How are you?
Good. Case 3082, Auerbach Wu versus Capron.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Auerbach, how long have you lived in your current residence?
I've lived there since 2006, Your Honor.
Do you own it or rent?
I own it.
Would you describe the kind of units it is?
They're condominium units. There's 8 per building.
How many floors?
Pardon?
How many
Two
floors?
floors. Yeah, 4 on each.
And the two of you are neighbors?
We are.
You live on the same floor?
She lives in a separate building, but we're both on the second floor.
Can you see her apartment from your apartment?
No, I can only see her door when I leave my apartment. I can't see her at all.
How far apart are the buildings?
17 feet.
When did you purchase your condominium?
July of 2019.
So you would live there more than a decade before the defendant moved in?
That's correct, Your Honor.
Ever had any difficulty before?
Never.
Okay. It is your claim, Mr. Auerbach, that the defendant, since she moved in, has embarked upon a course of conduct that can only be described, if this is true, serious harassment that has forced you to retain lawyers, that has potentially impacted on your business. You are, I see, a registered pharmacist.
That is correct, Your Honor.
So I'd like you to tell me, sir, when the problem first started with the defendant.
Well, to my knowledge, it started for me May 26, 2022, when a police officer showed up at my house.
Just a second. So the defendant had already been there for 4 years.
Correct.
So people showed up at your door. Who was that?
Officer showed up and was asking me some bizarre questions, strange questions. Are you walking around in the evening? Asked me what my job was, which I thought was strange because I've lived in Fairlawn since 2006. I file a tax return, so he should know that I'm a pharmacist.
Did anything come of that visit?
Well, he said there were some complaints.
You can't tell me what he said, because that's hearsay.
Yeah.
But did anything come from that visit?
Just that there was a complaint from the neighborhood. He didn't say neighbors, neighbor. And so I started asking my neighbors if there was a problem. And that's when I discovered that the defendant was...
Again, don't tell me hearsay. Ultimately, you and the defendant, it became an overt hostility. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
And since Mr. Auerbach doesn't know the genesis of your problem with him, why don't you tell me, when did you start to have, according to you, a problem with him?
Your Honor, I moved in July of 2019. Between July of 2019 and late 2021, I had noticed behavior. Marijuana was not legal in the state of Ohio. It is now legalized. But he was using marijuana outside on a very, very regular basis. Our condo units are very close in proximity. So he would be smoking outside and they'd be coming into my windows. As a matter of fact, I remember coming home from work one day and my entire unit smelled like marijuana. Not illegal, but like it's a nuisance for me.
In what year was that?
That was through the duration of 2021.
Just a second. That started in 2021.
That's correct.
Okay. But you moved in 2019. So in 2019, you didn't have a problem. In 2020, you didn't have a problem.
I had seen him using during those times. But
well, right now, marijuana use is legal. It's not illegal. Not illegal. And according to you, you could only see him outside.
Right in front of my windows.
It was in front of your windows, which, according to you, impacted inside your apartment on occasion. You smelled it inside your apartment. So what did you do?
So late 2021, I had acquired these issues with Mr. Auerbach.
Now, what issues did you acquire with him? So far, you smelled marijuana. What did you do as a result of seeing Mr. Auerbach smoke marijuana or smell it in your apartment when you came home? What did you do?
Late 2021, I overheard Mr. Auerbach and his former girlfriend arguing very extremely. They had actually left their door wide open, and I heard this woman screaming. And knowing that he had been
Scream, just a second. Screaming what?
just fighting.
She wasn't screaming, ah! She was screaming at him.
That's correct.
He was screaming at her.
That's correct.
Okay, you didn't hear her screaming. You heard two people having a fight.
I heard her say,
You heard two people having a fight.
yes.
So what did you do?
I called the police.
Okay. Do you recall what it is that you said to the police?
I told the police that there was a disturbing fight happening in front of my unit, and it seemed to be violent, and I was just worried for that girl. And I remember what she was saying, but I don't know if that's appropriate to say here.
Douglas Auerbach claims his neighbor, Rachel Capron, owes for lost wages and attorney fees after making false accusations. Rachel is countersuing Douglas for harassment and emotional distress.
Now, I'd like to know what she was saying. If I'm not accepting it for the truth of whether or not she actually said it, but I'd like to hear what you tell me you heard or what you tell me you relayed to the police.
Sure. She had said that he was a predator, was her word, and that he had created a fake Facebook profile to hit on her friend, is the words that I heard from his former girlfriend.
So it was a domestic fight. So that's not screaming. According to you, that's factual. She wasn't screaming, get off me, you're hurting me. They were having a fight about a Facebook page he created that she didn't like. So now you interjected yourself by calling the police, and you were frightened for the girl. So far, she sounds as if she can protect herself, based upon what you tell me. So you called the police, and do you remember when that was?
That was October of 2021.
That's not true.
Say nothing. When did the problems start that you refer to in your answer about the parking spaces in front of your condo?
Yes, so on February 6th of 2022, again, I called the police because of Mr. Auerbach's behavior.
No. You called the police because you heard, saw what?
This was when foreign guests were coming into and out of his home multiple hours throughout the day and the night. I had known that he was a pharmacist just through the talk of the neighborhood. But
well, it's not the talk of the neighborhood unless you're talking or listening. You saw foreign people coming in and out of his apartment, so you called the police.
That's correct.
That was the second call that you made?
That's correct.
Okay. I want you to get to the parking spaces.
Sure.
You don't have assigned spaces in the front of the building, correct?
That's correct.
But in front of your building, there are certain spaces. In front of his building, there are certain spaces, but they're not assigned.
Yes.
According to what I read, he was parking in front of your building.
Once the issues between Mr. Auerbach and myself came up, he started parking all of his vehicles immediately in front of my unit so that when I come home from work, I have nowhere to park. I can choose to park in my garage,
Just a second.
but I have no spaces.
When you say the issues arose, he wasn't having any issues with you. At that time, you were having issues with him.
That's correct.
You were having issues with him with smoking marijuana. You were having issues with him with having foreign visitors that you didn't recognize or know. So far, he didn't have any issues with you. Did the police respond on both instances, do you know?
When I called the police in late October of 2021, I know they came out to just do a basic well check. On February 6, 2022, when I called the police for him acting odd and having the foreign people coming in and out of his unit, he actually screamed at my window, "Clean up your dog, I hate you." And at that moment, it was very early in the morning.
Just a second. That was after your second call to the police. What happened next?
I purchased a Ring doorbell camera.
So you bought a Ring camera, and?
I bought the Ring camera, and from that day, I have now to this day hundreds of videos of him harassing me.
And other than these two calls to the police, did you make any other calls to the police about him?
Yes.
How many?
There were 6 total over the last 2+ years, 6 total reports.
Did you ever ask him to park his cars in front of his own building?
No, because at this...
Did you ask anyone else, like the condo association, anyone else, to ask him to park his cars in front of his own building?
I had brought that to the HOA attention.
When you say you brought it to the HOA, you went to the homeowners association.
I did.
And when you went to the homeowners association, in what month and year was that?
Approximately March of 2022.
Did you go to them in person or by mail?
By email.
I'd like to see it.
Unfortunately, I don't have that email.
Do you remember the complaint that you made when you sent an email to the homeowners association?
I do.
Well, in your best terms, what did you complain about?
I just said, I understand that there are no assigned parking spots, but he's got 6, 8 spots in front of his. I have 4. And ever since we've started to have problems with one another, he started parking 1, 2, or 3 of his vehicles in front of mine.
Not true.
And was that the only complaint that you made? Was that all that you said in the email to them?
Yes, it was strictly parking.
Did they respond to you?
They did.
And what was the response?
Parking is not assigned.
Parking is not assigned. Right. Now, there came a point where you filed harassment charges against him, and there was a trial.
That's not true. There was no trial.
You filed harassment charges again. Were you arrested, sir?
No, I was cited, though.
Okay.
I stopped at my house.
And did you both appear at some sort of a hearing with regard to that?
Yes.
When was that?
I filed the protection order on June 29th, 2022.
And you served him. Do you have a copy of that complaint?
I do.
I'd like to take a look at it. Okay. So this says, after reporting he has harassed and verbally via telecommunications and has physically stalked me, after reporting his drug use to the police, comments of "go kill yourself," some very bad language, have been made through my security camera. He also flips me off while shouting, again, expletive, into my camera. He watches me from his window when I walk outside.
It's not true.
Now, when you appeared together, what place did you go to? A courthouse?
Yes.
And did you appear before a judge?
Yes.
What month did you appear before a judge in 2022?
I have noted that October 7th of 2022, the charges that he had received were in fact dropped. But when...
Just a second. I'm not there yet.
Douglas Auerbach has accused his neighbor, Rachel Capron, of harassing him and making false accusations. Rachel says Douglas has been excessively harassing her through her Ring camera.
You went together with him to a courthouse. What happened when you went with him to the courthouse?
So the first time we went to the courthouse, we had gone on 2 different occasions. The first time we met with a judge, and I was given the opportunity to testify. I went up on the stand, and I gave her a summary of what he's been doing to me. During this testimony, the judge actually pulled the counsel into the back room. And when she came out, she said, "Mr. Auerbach, I see what you're doing." She said, "I see you looking at her."
I want to know what happened with that case. You testified. You had a lawyer. He had a lawyer.
I didn't have a lawyer at that time.
You said you had a public defender.
Right, a public defender. I hadn't hired...
Just a second. A public defender is a lawyer.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Just because you're not paying for it doesn't mean he or she is not a lawyer. You had a lawyer.
Yes.
And after you testified, what happened?
The hearing was continued.
To another day.
That's correct.
And what happened on the next date, which was when?
The next date was October 7th of 2022.
Okay, and what happened on that date?
So my public defender was there. We just waited, and she came over to me and said that the case was dismissed. I never saw anybody or talked to
just
anybody.
a second. You came back the next time, and your case was dismissed.
Yes.
So do you have a decision with regard to that? Do you have a decision with regard to that? I'm just curious as to what happened.
Well, there was actually 7 court dates that I attended. Those first few were arraignments.
Does anybody have any written document with regard to what happened at that hearing?
I have the court details right here
the decision.
with the dismissed.
Well, all it says is dismissed. I don't know.
Well, it's the whole court detail.
Just a second.
It'll illuminate on all the court dates that she's forgotten about.
Mr. Auerbach. Oh, yeah, there were a lot of court dates.
There were a lot.
Shh. You don't have to agree with me, sir. That's a statement. So there was nothing but a dismissal. And it was a dismissal after you testified. After you testified, the case was ultimately dismissed. I'm not entertaining your case because your case has already been adjudicated. It was dismissed, so I'm not hearing that. It's not that it was dismissed on some technicality. You, in fact, testified. Your case against him has already had its day in court. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's get back to false charges, lost wages. Now, Mr. Auerbach, false charges. He has harassed me via telecommunications. Okay, so that's what you say. I want you to tell me exactly what telecommunications you've referenced.
So I have a video that I would like to show on the big screen. If you would...
Just a second. Is that the telecommunications that you're talking about?
Yes. So on the Ring camera, him constantly talking into my camera or making gestures at the camera of my home.
And that was after you called the police several times on the defendant, who was never arrested as a result of any of those complaints. No charges ever filed against him. And then you put a Ring camera in because he said something about cleaning up after your dog. That frightened you. I must admit, I am less than ladylike. I think when I see somebody who's failing to pick up after their dog, as far as I'm concerned, it should be a felony, punishable by 15 to life.
I've never not picked up. I have a little Shih Tzu, and
I'm just telling you.
Lots of Shih Tzu.
I always pick up.
So now I'd like to see, after you put a Ring camera in, because after you started to have trouble with him, according to you,
yes,
for doing nothing that was illegal, but for which you called the police several times, now I'll see your video.
Standing on my doorstep.
Shh, 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 shh.
Flicking me off, spitting, flicking me off.
That stupid dumb.
This is every day.
Why? Oh, thankful, grateful, blessed. Yeah, we'll see about that. I'm gonna be paying you. Get shot.
Get shot.
You talked to my daughter.
When he attacked my dad.
I never talked to her before.
Talk to me.
Get me.
Talk to me.
No.
No, man to man. Man to man.
You want to tell me to go kill myself in my camera? Call me back every day.
Just a second. Who are those people?
So the rainbow hoodie is myself. The person with the flannel was my dad, who
Okay, so that was your father.
seconds prior
That was just a second.
attacked outside in the parking lot.
I don't know about that or not. I asked who it was.
Sure.
I didn't see any attack. I saw that you're not getting along. Okay, keep going.
Every day, dude. Why don't you leave me alone? I'm 25 years younger than you.
Anything else?
It's the end of the video.
Thank you.
That's
Has
8 of
physically
100.
stalked me.
Yes.
I want to know how he has physically stalked you. Is that what I just saw? Or you're talking about follows you to your job, follows you to... Let me hear.
Sure.
Never.
So I have a little Shih Tzu that I walk around my neighborhood, and when I'm walking her, he has gotten into his Camaro, came up right next to us, puts it in neutral, and rums his engine at me as I'm walking my dog, me minding my business, looking straight. I don't say anything back. I just keep going till I get home to my house
How many
safely.
times? Yeah. How many times had you called the police on him? Because you see, you hadn't had any trouble with him, which is what I'm having a problem wrapping my head around. He was having a fight with his girlfriend. You called the police.
I could hear the entire argument from my unit.
Mind your business.
She didn't say, don't put the knife in my face, don't point the gun at me. They were having a fight.
I have videos of him spitting on my door.
You started harassing him.
But why can't he leave me alone is my question.
He should. Then you should leave him alone.
I agree.
But you started it.
This is Judy Justice. Previously on Judy Justice.
Tell me, sir, when the problem first started with the defendant.
It started for me when a police officer showed up at my house.
When did you start to have a problem with him?
He was using marijuana outside, so he would be smoking outside and they'd be coming into my windows, and my entire unit smelled like marijuana.
After reporting his drug use to the police, comments of "go kill yourself" have been made through my security camera. Now I'll see your video.
You want to tell me to go kill myself? And my camera call me back every day?
Just a second, who are those people?
The person with the flannel was my dad, who seconds prior
That was just a
attacked
second.
outside in the parking lot.
I don't know about that or not. How many times had you called the police on him? Because you see, you hadn't had any trouble with him, which is what I'm having a problem wrapping my head around.
And now, the conclusion. Douglas Auerbach is suing his neighbor, Rachel Capron, for lost wages, false charges, attorney fees, and harassment.
Okay. When was your call to the police that he was smoking marijuana?
The first one was May 23rd of 22 is when they're noted in the police report, and I have a copy of that.
And then he cursed you. That's clear. That's in here. Have been made through my security camera. He watches me from his windows when I walk outside.
And me.
I see your mother shaking her head, yes.
Regarding the stalking, I hadn't seen my parents in a while, and they came over to go out to dinner together, and they showed up. I walked outside of my unit to get into my dad's car, and Mr. Auerbach came out and said to my dad, and that's when that last video that you saw was him saying, "Leave my daughter alone."
But the truth is, from his perspective, madam, you had been harassing him. Do you understand that? He had had no trouble living in his apartment from 2006. You move in and you don't like the fact that he's doing something that is not illegal.
It wasn't
but is
illegal at the
smelling up
time.
your house. Well, the first time you called was in May of 2022. When did marijuana become legal in your state?
I believe it was November 8th of 23.
It was November 7th, 2023.
Medical became years before that. I have a medical card.
Well, everybody can get a medical card, but that
But-
means, but it means you have, but it means you have one. Do you have,
Absolutely.
Did you ever show anyone your medical marijuana card?
No.
Would you like to show it to me?
Sure.
I'd like to see it.
Is it dated?
Yeah, he has a Ohio medical marijuana registry, and it was issued October 2nd, 2021. Would you like to see it?
Thank you.
Just for my information, Mr. Auerbach, the defendant has already told me why she called the police the first time, which is about this fight that you had with your then girlfriend. How long had you been with this girlfriend?
3 or 4 years.
Did she live with you?
She did.
Had the police ever been called prior to the defendant moving in?
Never.
And I have to tell you, I'm not necessarily faulting you if you were legitimately concerned over the safety of someone, but it turned out that it was a fight and an overreaction. She was accusing him of doing certain things in a very loud way, and he was fighting with her. And so I'm not going to fault you for being proactive, but you have to understand from his perspective, you were a Badinsky. When you call the police and say, there's a woman and I'm fearful that something is happening to her, and it was a domestic dispute, a shouting match, you can understand from his perspective that was a bit of an overkill.
Right. It was just extremely loud, and the door was left wide open. I could hear the entire argument from my unit. And it went on for a long time.
What you may do is, if you're calling, you can report something as being loud, like playing loud music. They're screaming and we're hearing them. And it looks to me as if there are lots of units there. As far as you know, no one else called the police about this argument, just you. So you can understand from his perspective that that's a form of harassment. And you can understand that from his perspective, since he has a legal marijuana card that was issued a year before, and I'm not going to ask him why, because, you know, you can say you have an ingrown toenail and get a medical marijuana card. But he was not doing anything illegal. And then you say that there were people coming in and out of his unit. Do you have any video of that?
I do not.
No.
That was before I got the Ring camera, before the harassment.
What do you mean? So your concern was, and your reporting was, these are foreigners coming into his apartment, and the connotation was that he was a drug dealer.
I saw one.
That was the connotation, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Douglas Auerbach is suing his neighbor, Rachel Capron, for lost wages, false charges, attorney fees, and harassment. Rachel is countersuing, claiming Douglas harassed her, causing emotional distress.
And so what you're telling me, as soon as you got the Ring camera, the people stopped coming? He went out of business?
I didn't see people coming anymore. He hated the camera. And the one person that I saw show up at his house was knocking on his door. His old girlfriend had answered the door, and he was doing this like nodding out motion. And I was scared. I live, like you said, our doors are less than 20 feet apart from one another. And there's this guy outside his front door that is clearly impaired from something.
Well,
and needing him.
Mind your business.
Shh.
Mind you. If I have to go outside and let my dog outside, I should be able to do that without running into these foreign people that are coming to his home, or running into him, cussing me out, calling me every name under the sun. And
Madam, you have to understand, I'm going to tell you, and your mother is nodding and agreeing with you, he did not precipitate this hostility. I know that you feel as if he did, but he didn't. He was having a fight with his girlfriend. You called the police. According to you, he had people coming to his house. You have no proof of that, but they were foreign people. They made you uncomfortable. You called the police. After you called the police at least those 2 times, you wrote to the HOA asking for them to intercede on your behalf, to tell him to move his cars out of the front of your building. You felt uncomfortable enough because evidently he's going to tell me that somebody from the pharmacy board came to his house as a result of complaints that you filed, and it could have cost him his license. It ultimately did not, but it could have. And you're telling me that after all of that, you think he should be a pleasant neighbor?
Your Honor,
what is that?
Does she have to live like this?
No, she should probably move closer to you. She should probably move closer to you. He's been living there well over a decade. He had no trouble. And he wasn't doing anything illegal, and he wasn't doing anything that necessitated police intervention, both of which your daughter sought. Do you understand? She didn't know he had a medical marijuana card. And I never fault people if they have a legitimate fear that somebody, man or woman, is being threatened. But what she heard was an argument.
I heard an argument, and I was fearful of what was happening.
Well, that's not his problem. That's your problem that you're fearful. What you actually told me that you heard was this woman with whom he had lived shouting at him that he was a predator and that he made up a false Facebook page. This is his domestic partner, that she evidently found out, according to the argument that you relayed, that he was doing something sub rosa that was sketchy. She didn't say, don't put the knife in my face, don't point the gun at me, stop chasing me. They were having a fight. So you have to understand, from his perspective, you started it, and he reacted by being crude. But despite the fact that your mother thinks you're in the right, you started harassing him for no legal reason. That's from his perspective. You had no legal reason to call the police on him for the first 2 times, and I don't know how many times you called the police after that. So I think you're absolutely right. I think you should not have to be in a place where you feel uncomfortable walking out with your dog. He's not moving. He's lived there. And if you find his conduct reprehensible, as your mother does, and as actually I find being cursed at, through whether it's through a Ring camera or in person, I find that distasteful. It's not going to get any better. So you're a young woman. If you're truly unhappy, sell your apartment and move.
I shouldn't have to move because of...
Well, he's not going to have to move.
But why can't he leave me alone is my question.
Just a second. He should leave you alone, and you should leave him alone.
I agree.
But you started it.
I started
Do
it
you
because
understand?
I was scared. I live by myself, Your Honor.
No. The first time you called the police, you weren't scared. Well, you weren't scared that you smelled marijuana in your apartment, that the windows were open. You came home from work and your apartment smelled from marijuana. You weren't mad. You were annoyed. That started it. You didn't have any trouble with him before. And then the foreign people who were coming to his door, that's a serious allegation. Serious. So, do I think he behaved like a gentleman? No. Do I think that you overreacted to situations that caused him to have to hire a lawyer? The answer is absolutely yes. And since it's not going to get better, since those things are in stone already, he's already been involved with the police, he's already been involved with the courts, he's already been involved with the board that governs his livelihood because of allegations that you made, and that's not going to go away. Because if he's accused and the underlying allegation with people, as you said, coming to his door and somebody bowing to him, which is the motion that you made, a bowing motion, and if the police contacted or somebody else contacted the governing board that governs his license, that all was precipitated because of you. And I'm not condoning the foul language, the talking into your Ring camera, all of that. But this bad blood exists. It's not going to go away. So why should you have to? You shouldn't have to. Why should he? Because it's not going to stop.
I've looked at moving recently.
Well, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Meanwhile, I don't find any of the allegations that you described for the first two reasons to take him to court had any validity. How much did the lawyer cost you?
$3,000, Your Honor.
I saw that in here, his bill for $3,000. I have to tell you, Mr. Auerbach, I haven't really addressed you yet. And you can hear that I have a certain amount of sympathy for your position because the two things that she alleged that you did to cause her to call the police on 2 occasions before she filed a complaint against you, there was nothing illegal about your behavior.
Correct.
That's according to her. There was nothing illegal about your behavior. So I don't think that you should have to pay a lawyer. I think she should have to pay your lawyer. But I think that what I saw on the camera was a crude reaction. Crude.
And it's every day.
It was
every day.
It was precipitated by you.
Defendant Rachel Capron claims the plaintiff, Douglas Auerbach, has been harassing her for years. Douglas says he's lost thousands of dollars to defend himself from Rachel's false accusations.
Now, it was precipitated by your actions. I'm telling him it's a crude reaction, all of which was precipitated by you for him doing nothing that was illegal or required police intervention. If somebody called the police on me and I wasn't doing anything wrong, and as a result of that, I had to hire a lawyer to defend me, I would be royally annoyed. I wouldn't use that kind of language. I would probably do something more vengeful, but I would do it so that it couldn't be traced back to me. But you and your mother both have to understand, while his reaction was certainly ungentlemanly, crude, and probably continues to be, it was precipitated by your actions.
I have videos of him spitting on my door, hundreds of him spitting on my door. So when
That's
I go
a lie.
to walk, it's not a lie. I have it all on video right now.
Stop. I can't tell you that I approve of his crude conduct. I don't. But the first 2 allegations that you made against him that required him to go to court, it looks like, on at least 7 or 8 occasions, and hire a lawyer.
I have a paper or two.
I don't care. You started it. He had to go to court to defend himself against something that was not illegal. What do you want?
Can I just ask one question, Judge?
Sure. You have to stand up and ask me a question.
My daughter has been changed for 2 years due to the harassment.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying.
So what's your question? Don't make a statement. What's your question?
Does she have to continue to be treated this way and continue to be prescribed anti-anxiety medication due to the severe harassment that this man causes her every single day?
I think she should move close to you.
Does he have to continue? Can you just tell him to stop?
I can tell him to stop. It's not going to mean anything to him if I tell him to stop. And your daughter has had a hearing. Maybe she has to go back. If she has proof that she wants a protective order, that he's doing something illegal, let her refile, or let her do the smart thing, let her sell her apartment and move. That's what I would advise one of my children. He's not going to move, and as long as they live right opposite each other, there's going to be acrimony. I wouldn't live like that. I really wouldn't live like that, nor would I encourage one of my children to live like that. He's been living there since 2008 or 6. He's not moving. And what precipitated this whole hostility, he probably has a short fuse. He probably is relentless in getting even.
Yes.
You have to acknowledge that your daughter started the trouble.
I understand, but isn't
No,
there a
not
point...
do you understand. Do you understand and agree with it?
I agree, but can't it stop after 2 years?
Well, once the Hatfield and McCoys started to fight, they continued to fight until a lot of people were dead. And it seems to me life has enough challenges so that if you can extricate yourself from a major stressor, you do that. Okay, we're finished. Mr. Auerbach, I don't think that you should have had to pay for a lawyer for the first instance that brought you to court. Based upon what she tells me, you were engaged in no illegal conduct at the time she brought you to court, so she's going to pay for your lawyer. I don't have to entertain your counterclaim because that counterclaim is based on the same allegations that were already heard by another court, and the case was dismissed. If you have fresh allegations and want to continue this lunacy, and you have further proof, file for another protective order. Maybe this one will be granted. And I wouldn't live in a situation where I felt uncomfortable. I mean, he's a man, you're a woman, you're younger, you're about the same size. So it's not a David and Goliath situation. But one of you is going to move, and clearly he's not. He's been living there almost 20 years, right? Okay. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I've been living in misery for 2 years. I called the police simply because I was concerned for my safety, and I guess I'll have to continue living with the current circumstances.
I was happy that the judge kind of tore into her and her mother a little bit. Not happy about some of my behavior towards her, being rude, but it's protected free speech, and you know, she's gonna have to deal with it.
Severe anxiety, panic attacks. I'm scared to go outside to let my dog out, scared to let the trash out, take the trash out. It's just anxiety in my own home that I pay for all the time.
Leave me alone. Don't talk to me, ignore me, get on with your life.
I feel like a prisoner in my own home. I'm scared to be in my house when I'm home.
People should just mind their own business.
It is an absolute living hell.
You know, Sarah, I actually feel sorry for the defendant. I wouldn't like to live that way. For whatever reason, she called the police the first time because it was loud. You know, I don't know whether I would call the police. I would close my door and turn up the music a little bit because there was nothing threatening in that conversation. If anything, she sounded like his ex-girlfriend was threatening him. And would I be annoyed if my next-door neighbor was smoking cigars and my apartment reeked from cigar smoke because it crept under? Would I be annoyed? I would be. But if it's not illegal, then it's not worth a phone call.
Yeah, I think people should think twice about the consequences and how long, like we've seen here, those consequences can go on for as a result of involving law enforcement in, you know, petty disputes.
Probably
really be sure when you make that call, you know, that it's have
not just
everyone's
annoying.
best interests and it's from a good place.
Right.
And I think it was from a good place with her, but I think she was a little nosy Nelly.
And certainly, what she says, she saw foreigners. Just, I don't know what that means.
People are allowed to have whoever they want come and go from their residence.
Your giant leap is that he's a drug dealer.
Yeah.
Well, those things would be irritating, certainly if they were not true.
Yeah.
And was he crude, rude in response? He was crude, rude in response.
But he didn't call the police on her for any of her behavior in retaliation.
Yeah.
So, you know.
Anyway, I feel sorry for her, and I really think she should move.
Yeah, I do.
Because he's not moving.
Yep.
Stole the keys to your car and your car.
Correct.
I was out for maybe less than 2 minutes.
I had noticeable issues and got worse and worse, and I had to get it towed.
Because the way he drives, there's videos of how he drives.
What an idiot.
This is Judy Justice. Sean Spencer is suing his friend, Sierra Coya for engine damage after Sierra drove his sports car without permission.
Court, come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 3099, Spencer versus Koya.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Spencer, how old are you?
19.
Who is this?
This is the person who evaluated my car, the mechanic.
How old are you?
I'm 18, Your Honor.
This is your claim, Mr. Spencer. Your claim is that the defendant took your car without your permission and for sort of a little test drive or a joyride, and she blew the engine on the car. That's your claim. Correct. The defendant said it's absolutely not true. She didn't do anything to the car. She does acknowledge that she took it for a test drive. She said, I did nothing to the car. The car was perfectly fine when I brought it back.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so tell me on what date you were hanging out and your car was taken by the defendant.
It was September 28th, Your Honor.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 2013 Scion FRS, two-seater sports car.
So the car is 11 years old?
Correct.
How long have you had it?
I've had it since May 25th.
Of this year?
Correct, or yeah, 2023.
Who'd you buy it from?
I bought it from a neighbor.
How many miles does it have on it now?
It has 140,000 miles.
How much did you pay for the car?
I paid 12 grand.
You paid $12,000 for a car that had 140,000 miles on it?
Correct. It's a sports car.
Okay. Where'd you get the $12,000 from?
Some of it's through a loan through my mother, and the rest was in cash.
Where'd you get the cash from?
Jobs or...
So you saved up?
Correct.
Okay. So tell me what happened in September.
So it's September 28th. We were all hanging out for a couple of hours.
Where?
This is up in Palmdale, just off 49th Street, at a friend.
Where were you? At a friend?
Yeah. It was one of the friends that we were hanging out with.
Okay, how many people were there?
5 of them, me make 6, so 6 total. My girlfriend's birthday was the following day, so we were gonna hang out throughout the night up until midnight.
What time had you gotten to your friend's house?
Roughly like 4 p.m., 5 p.m. Dinner
What time did you get there?
I got around 3 p.m.
Okay, now tell me what happened with the car.
We were all hanging out in her room at the place in Palmdale. My keys...
Your friend's room?
Yes, correct. My keys as well as wallet and phone were all on a desk. We're gonna head down to Canyon Country, Santa Clarita, and just before leaving, the defendant had punched me in my stomach and kicked me, ran off, stole the keys, and then...
Out of nowhere, she came and she punched you in the stomach and kicked you where?
Like, just somewhere like in the side. I was on a bed, and then she had hit me, and I turned over, and she had kicked me, and then ran off.
You mean from nothing? You didn't have any incident with her?
No, not at all.
So
she's rather physical and has been in previous... We've hung out
physical
before.
how?
Just punching, hitting, pinching.
You're talking about playfully?
Not
because otherwise you wouldn't hang out with her.
I don't necessarily like to, but it's a friend group that everyone else I enjoy being around. So I kind of just sort of deal with it, if you will.
So now she's punched you in the side and kicked you.
Mm-hmm.
And then what?
She then proceeded to take my keys and run out of the house. By this time, 3 others were out of the bedroom and starting to get out of the house.
Just a second. So you were alone with her on the bed?
So we were all getting ready to leave. 3 people had already left the room. What was left in the room was me, my girlfriend, and the defendant.
Mm-hmm.
Then...
And where were you all?
I was on the bed, and my girlfriend was on the bed. She was standing just in front.
And?
And then she proceeded to hit me, kick me.
So what you're telling me is she leaned over, she punched you, and then got her foot up and kicked you someplace?
Yeah.
Got her foot up over the bed and kicked you.
It was like hip level.
I think I believe that. I don't. And then she took your keys and ran out of the house.
Correct, she ran out of the house.
Okay, now, tell me how you got the keys to the car.
He had them laying on the desk. We were all just messing around. I didn't hit him or kick him.
Would you just tell me, don't tell me what you didn't do. Tell me what you did.
I grabbed his keys and I went out of the house.
So when you say you grabbed his keys and went out of the house, you took the car without permission?
Yes, I did.
Why?
It was a sports car, so it was like I wanted like an experience of like driving it. It was supposed to be as a joke. I didn't mean it in a harmful way.
I don't think you meant it in a harmful way. But you took the car without permission.
Yes, and I apologized for it. And he said it was okay and forgave me.
When did you apologize?
Directly after I took his keys and took the car.
When you brought it back?
Yes.
Okay, so you didn't apologize before you took it. You took it and it was about what time?
9 p.m.
Okay, 9 p.m. And you've been hanging around for a while. So you've been hanging around since 3, so you were there between 5 and 6 hours.
Yes.
Anybody doing any drinking?
No.
Anybody doing any smoking?
Nicotine, yes.
Okay, but nothing other than that?
No.
Okay, so now it's 6 hours later, and you took the car. Where did you go with the car?
Up and down the street. I did not leave the neighborhood. I was out for maybe less than 2 minutes.
Did you hit anything when you traveled?
No, not at all.
Okay, and when you came back, he must have been annoyed.
Yes, he was.
Okay, so he's waiting for you outside.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Spencer, she took your keys. She acknowledges she took your keys without your permission. You went following outside after her, I assume.
By the time I was making it outside, she had started the car and started to back out.
Okay, so you were there, just a second, so you were there when she backed out of the driveway.
I was there as she had stopped getting out of the driveway and she was going forward.
She was in the process of taking your car, not returning it.
Correct.
In effect, she stole the keys to your car and your car.
Correct.
Okay, so now you're standing out in front of the house, in front of your friend's house, waiting for her to come back.
Correct.
How long were you standing there waiting for her to come back?
It was roughly...
Careful.
3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Correct.
So she didn't go very far.
No.
Now, did you see the car? It's not an answer.
Sorry.
You saw her pull away with the car.
For the first 200 feet, until she turned onto a new street.
200 feet you saw, and then you saw 200 feet when she was coming back, because she was out for 3 minutes, so you just stood there. So she didn't go, maybe she went around the block once.
Right.
Okay. And then she brought the car back, and what did she say when she got out of the car? She says she apologized to you.
Yeah, I was infuriated with the fact that she had taken the car, because it wasn't the first time she had tried to do this. This was just the final time that she finally went through with it. And then when she had come, she had said, like, I'm sorry, this and that, because she could tell I was really mad. And at the time, I was just like, it's okay, because the next day was my girlfriend's birthday. I was trying to not keep the mood down and really just mellow, if you will.
Now, you said you were going to hang out someplace that day. Where were you going to hang out?
We didn't have any specific plans.
9 o'clock at night. Where did you go?
After that, we ended up driving down to Canyon Country.
Okay.
But my car
Just a second. You drove down to Canyon Country.
My car did not make it.
Sean Spencer claims his friend, Sierra Coya, owes for engine damage after she drove his sports car without permission.
Okay. You got into your car with your girlfriend.
Correct.
And how far did you get?
A couple miles.
So you drove it a few miles.
Yeah, probably about 4.
Now, how long did it take you to drive the car these 4 miles? Did it take you 10 minutes?
I would say more like 5 to 6.
6 minutes and 4 miles. That's going pretty fast.
Correct.
How fast were you going?
I think it's 55 there. I was going 55.
Okay. So let's say you were doing 55 miles an hour. And then what happened?
That whole 6-minute drive, I could not get much power out of it. It wasn't working.
You were
right.
traveling 55 miles an hour. That's power.
Yeah, but it wasn't like it wouldn't get there as quickly. It was having noticeable issues. There was sounds. I have a video of the sounds as well that was taken after that 6-minute drive, and it had started the second I got in the car and got worse and worse. That's why I pulled over, took the video, had all of that.
Okay.
And I had to get it towed.
And did you have it towed to his shop?
I took it to one shop first. It was a friend of my mother's. He gave us a quote for $7,200, and that was not in our budget. So then I ended up taking it to him.
Okay, and where did you find him?
This is my uncle, who also works for LAPD.
It's what?
He's my uncle.
He's your uncle?
Correct.
Stand up, sir. Is he your mother's brother?
No.
He's your father's brother?
Correct.
Okay. You have a shop, sir, or do you do this as a sideline?
I was a mechanic for 20 years, and now I'm...
That's not what I asked you. I asked you whether you have a shop, or is this a sideline?
Sure, I run a shop.
What kind of a shop?
The LAPD Central Division Police.
And what do you do for them?
I'm an automotive supervisor, so I supervise all the mechanics in charge of 1,300.
And did you, in fact, fix it?
I didn't do it personally. I diagnosed it and had one of my guys repair it. I didn't have the time to fix it.
You had one of the guys from LAPD do it?
Yes.
Where did he do it?
At his house.
How long did he have the car at his house?
About 2 weeks.
Did he present you a bill, or did he present your nephew with a bill?
Well, we bought the engine from an importer, and so with the bill, I just had him buy the engine from them, and then we just paid him.
Just a second. So you bought the engine secondhand?
Yes.
And how much did you pay for the engine?
45, 20, 25 cents.
And how much did you pay to put the engine in?
$700. 500 of that was for the labor.
Okay. Now, you heard this, so you have a certain amount of expertise, I assume?
Yes.
Based upon what you told me. What was wrong with the engine?
It had a piston that had contacted a cylinder head and bent the valve, so it had low compression in one cylinder.
How does that happen?
Over-revving the engine.
Over-revving?
To put it in a drastic measure, if you're on the freeway going 70 and you're in 5th gear and you stick it in 3rd gear, what's going to happen? Your RPMs shoot up and the engine has too many RPMs and it's not made to have that many RPMs. That's why there's a red line on your tachometer. You're not supposed to go over that. The mechanics can't function that and it over-revs and it makes contact with each other.
When that happens to the engine, does the engine seize?
Well, it bent a valve, and so the valve just stays at the bad angle to where it can't seal the combustion chamber in the cylinder, and so that's one of the 4 cylinders doesn't make full power anymore.
But it has power.
You can drive it, it's still drivable, yes.
And it could go 4 miles.
You could probably drive it across the country, but yeah, you get poor gas mileage, check engine light would be on, and it'd be noisy.
Because it ultimately stopped, because your nephew drove the car about 4 miles at 55 miles an hour.
When I saw it, the car was still running, just making a horrible noise, and I don't know if it stopped on him or if he stopped it because of the noise.
Did you stop it because of the noise?
Yeah, I started to stop, and then as I was slowing down, I probably hit maybe 2 miles an hour, and as soon as all the lights came on the dash, and then it seized for the next 10 feet.
Okay. And Mr. Spencer, prior to the 28th of September, had you had any mechanical difficulty with the car?
Never.
You had never taken it to a mechanic or anything else?
No.
Okay.
It had no reason.
So the evening of this event was the first time you had heard this kind of a noise in the car?
Correct.
Didn't hear it when you got to your friend's house? Okay. Koya, is that how you pronounce your name? Miss Koya. So let me tell you this. This is the decision that I have to make. You can have a seat, sir. Thank you for your assistance. It is very hard, almost impossible, to say for certain that you caused damage to his car. I don't have to find that as a certainty that you caused damage to his car. I can look at circumstantial evidence. Now, if he had given you permission to take his car and you drove it, and 4 miles down the road when he's in the car starts to act up, I would have said, you know what? I really can't tell whose fault it was. He's traveling 55 miles an hour. You took the car because you've been hankering to take that car and have a test drive for a while, according to him, which I believe, because you stole the keys and stole the car. That's what you actually did. So it's a very easy decision for me.
Yes, but they did go to Ventura. They did drive that night to Ventura, and he was speeding that way. And
how do you know?
Because the way he drives. There's videos of how he drives.
Your problem is you stole his car.
Yeah, and he admitted into text that he was low on oil and the engine seized because he had no oil in it.
May I see the text that she's talking about? Who's?
A friend that was there with the group.
Well, you explained to what happened with the car. Now you can stand up, sir. You understand what I was telling her, that if I couldn't make a determination as to what caused this problem with the car, the fact that she took the car without permission makes my life easy. You would agree with that?
Yes.
But you would agree with the fact that if there was some other basis for the car to have malfunctioned, it wouldn't be her fault.
Yeah.
Could the car malfunction as a result of being low on oil?
There's millions of reasons a car could malfunction, yeah.
Was that, well,
That's
I'm not talking
what
about
happened.
millions.
Yeah.
I'm talking the problem with the engine.
A lack of oil can't make the piston hit the valve, no.
Well, so let me read you what he said to his friend.
I had sent that text after the first mechanic had looked at it.
So, first you're right, every cop knows me now, so when they pull me over, they only give me speeding tickets of 60 miles an hour. What happened? So, it was low on oil, and the engine seized up. Ruined just about everything. It's beyond repair. In order to fix it, it needs a new engine, and then the labor and parts put in it, which is about $8,000 from what I've heard. Scrap yards only offer about $1,000 for the car. And he says, damn, I'm sorry. Does that sound familiar to you?
Sort of, yes.
Yeah.
John Spencer has accused his friend, Sierra Koya, of driving his sports car without permission and damaging the engine. Sierra claims Sean drives recklessly and damaged his own engine.
Why would you drive a car that was low on oil?
The first mechanic that had it looked at, that's what he said. But I drained the oil.
So, it was low on oil and the engine seized up. That's what the first mechanic told you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be her fault.
Correct.
Right?
However, it wasn't in need of any oil, and I check it on the first of every month.
Okay.
I had it serviced. Well, this was 4 months.
Do you understand? Do you understand what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying to you. You have any other texts for me to look at?
Yes, I have these two, and then the videos of him speeding.
He speeds, but I'll look at the video anyway because I like to look at pictures.
And then I also have
I don't know what this has to do with anything.
that they were speeding on the way there.
Oh, so the drive from Starbucks to Chick-fil-A. You went to Chick-fil-A?
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are other.
Yeah. Was supposed to be like 45 minutes. This is on September 15th. You following this, sir?
Yeah.
So the drive from Starbucks to Chick-fil-A was supposed to be like 45 minutes. We did it in 15.
It's impossible, but okay.
It's just him talking.
Yeah.
Cool. 109 miles for me the entire way.
That's my buddy's truck. We all rode in his truck, so that's him speeding. That's not me.
You rode in his truck?
Correct.
Just a minute. So when this is every cop knows me now.
That was me. That was in my
Yeah,
car.
every cop knows me now. So when they pull me over, they only give me speeding tickets for 60.
It was a joke because I'd gotten a speeding ticket, my first one, a couple weeks before. I got it at 2 in the morning after a closing shift for 60 and a 45.
Now I'm going to take a look at the video. How did you get this video?
He sent it to the group chat.
He sent it to the group chat?
Yes.
What an idiot.
And there's multiple videos.
Oh, what an idiot.
It seems like they're all going about 50 miles an hour and it says 93. I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't speed or anything, but they all have their brake lights on. Semi-trucks can't go 93. He's going the same speed, so I don't know where that speed mile an hour is coming from.
He sent it on a group chat about his own car.
But common sense would say that truck isn't going 103 miles an hour.
What truck?
The semi-truck on the right of him that's going the same speed as him.
Are you making an excuse for that?
You can look at the
Just a
video. If you
second.
think that's accurate, then that's fine, but...
I'm just looking at
I understand.
how he's going, weaving in between cars. You think that that's reasonable?
No.
Do you know that when I am on a parkway and I see a moron like that weaving in between cars, all I say is, I hope they kill themselves alone and don't take anybody else with them. He shouldn't have a car. He shouldn't be driving a car. You shouldn't be stealing the keys to a car. So it's going to cost you $7,000 or $6,000 to fix the car?
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
paid.
she's going to pay $1,000 for stealing it. You're going to pay the rest. Got it?
Got it.
Perfect. That's what happens. Because unfortunately, morons like you usually don't go alone. They usually take a family of 4 with them. So this one's going to cost you. You understand?
Yeah, I don't care.
You don't mind that, do you? Perfect.
Yeah.
Judging for the plaintiff costs you $1,000 to take a joyride. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I think it's unfair. She stole a car and broke it.
It was a good decision. I did apologize, and I accept I did what I did was wrong.
When the car broke down, the dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. The sounds were loud and clanky.
He even drove to Ventura for 2 hours after that and was speeding the whole way there.
There's only the one video of me speeding, and it's inaccurate.
Like, I didn't think of it as stealing. I thought it was like a joke. I didn't really mean to like steal it or anything.
It's good, running, no problems, nothing. The mechanics did a great job fixing it.
Well, I'm obviously not going to do it again.
Keep it under 50.
I thought it was ridiculous. It was funny to me.
Do you know how furious I get, Sarah, when I'm driving on a parkway? And I don't drive myself on a parkway anymore. I just don't have the...
Reaction time.
That's bad. I don't have the reaction times that I did, and I feel a little tenuous. I like to drive in local streets where I know where I'm going. But when I'm on a parkway and I see these cars weaving in and out, speed limit is 55, so you're going 75 or you're going 80. But you're weaving in and out. And you're coming up on cars. They don't know that you're there.
I know that you hate that. I know that you do.
Because, you know, when you...
It tenses everybody else up.
When you
Everybody
pick
else
up a
gets
newspaper
nervous.
and you see what can happen?
Yeah.
Car can flip over if you're going too fast. Somebody could be fixing a tire on the side of the road. And I really just pray that if something happens, they go alone.
I know.
So this kid is bound for trouble.
Yeah.
The police pull me over now, and they only give me a speeding ticket for 60. Well, that means he's been pulled over for speeding numerous times because the police know who he is. I say to myself, I've been driving a very long time. And I'm not saying I've never speeded. 10 miles, maybe 8 miles over the speed limit. But I've never been stopped for speeding. Here's a kid who the police know by his first name.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Anyway.
Well, he slows down.
He took money out of your account.
We've split money back and forth. I wasn't keeping tally.
I'm asking you what you...
I sent her money, she sent me...
Just a second. Now it's going to get difficult.
This is Judy Justice. Jill Wyatt is suing her ex-boyfriend, John Moore, for the money he spent while she was in jail.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 3046, Wyatt versus Moore.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Wyatt, how long were you and Mr. Moore in a relationship?
We've known each other for about 18 years.
Did you ever live together?
On a couple of occasions.
When was the last time you lived together?
January, I believe, 2022.
Were you living in a house or an apartment?
It was a house.
Was it a lease?
Yes.
Was the lease in your name, Mr. Moore's, or both?
No. Apparently, it was an arrangement that he had with the person that he gave the money to. There was no paper.
We're getting far off the field, but it's getting more interesting. Now, Mr. Moore, Miss Wyatt, although I believe she probably has a good memory of this, I have just a sense that she's reluctant to give me information about this for whatever reason. In January of 2022, sir, you and the plaintiff were living in a house together.
No.
When were you living in a house together?
We've never had a relationship. We've never lived together. When you say live together, I come over. I got a girlfriend I've been having for the whole time. So I've never lived with her.
Do you remember the house she's talking about,
yes,
sir?
Yes, I do.
All right.
The one she destroyed.
I don't want you, just a second. I don't want you to play around with me.
Okay, I'm not.
Okay. Do you know the house she was talking about when the two of you were together some of the time in a house in January of 2022? That's a yes or a no?
Still a no.
Okay. So the house that she's talking about, you lived in alone?
I lived in with my girlfriend, actually.
Oh, just a second. Did Miss Wyatt ever come to stay in that house with you before you had your then current girlfriend?
When I first got the apartment, Miss Wyatt was going to come. She didn't get along with the lady upstairs. She said she wouldn't come, destroyed the house and left.
Okay. Well, if she destroyed the house, then she was in the house. Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
If she destroyed the house, then she was in the house. And if she didn't get along with the lady upstairs, she wouldn't know that unless she actually lived there because she's not telepathic.
Okay.
So she was, in fact, there.
I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm trying to understand what you're saying, man.
What I'm saying is not difficult. She did, in fact, stay there with you for a while after you got this house.
Okay.
Not okay.
No, I'm seeing where you're trying to go with that. I'm trying to see what you're establishing. Yes, she did stay there. I'm agreeing with you. That was me saying yes, ma'am.
No. Taking a long time, but we're there. Okay. And then at some point, Miss Wyatt, you left there and you went into your own apartment?
Yes.
Okay, and where is your apartment?
I moved into a trailer.
That you were renting?
Yes.
I just want to know. I'm getting ahead of myself, but that's the trailer that he was supposed to pay rent on and utilities on when you went to jail?
Yes, ma'am.
So from 2020 until the time you went to jail for, what, 18 months?
78 weeks. Or, I'm sorry, 78 days.
What did you go to jail for?
In 2018, I received a, I'm sorry.
Just a second. 2018, you had a conviction.
Yes, I ended up serving the time in 2022 for
theft.
Correct. I stole Thanksgiving dinner, ma'am.
Are you sure? It sounds like 78 days is a lot. Were you on probation first?
Yes.
Did you take a plea in that case?
Yes.
Okay. And as part of the plea, you were placed on probation?
Correct.
What was the crime that you pled guilty to? I want to understand this. What, was it petty theft? Was it grand larceny? What was it?
No, it was retail fraud / shoplifting for $170.
Okay.
That's what it's.
And you were placed on probation.
Yes.
Why was your probation violated? Because that clearly was why you went to jail for 78 days, not because of an old crime, but because you violated probation.
I wasn't keeping in contact with my probation officer like I was supposed to.
Okay. So this case is about the fact that you asked Mr. Moore, who you knew for a long time, to take care of your expenses, your bills, while you were incarcerated, and you gave him your phone.
Yes.
Your phone had the wherewithal, and he understood that because he acknowledges he used it to take money out of your bank account and pay bills, et cetera, with it. And you acknowledged that she gave you her phone for that purpose.
She gave me her phone not to pay bills, but to give her commissary and to keep up with her stuff.
Pay her bills, some to put in her commissary, and the last thing you said was pay her bills and...
Put money in her commissary and keep up with some stuff.
That's the keeping up with some stuff is what we're talking about here,
Yep.
sir. Keeping up with what stuff?
Phone bill, I mean...
Just a second.
Go ahead.
Now it's going to get difficult.
Okay, I'm
Do
listening.
you understand? I know you are, sir. Keeping up with other stuff. Phone bill.
She bought a...
Jump.
I'm sorry, I'll wait till you
What
ask the
else?
question.
Phone bill?
She ended up buying a computer at that time.
No, I'm asking you.
So, no, I'm telling you, that came off the monies that was there. She was incarcerated. So as a lot of things just come off the phone as a bill, like...
No, I'm asking you what you...
What did I?
What you were supposed to take care of.
It was never etched out. And what I'm saying is she wanted me to stay at her house while she was gone. And that was a means for her to keep in touch with me or keep in contact.
Okay, no. That's something that I didn't get out of this. So she wanted you to stay in her trailer, because she was living in a trailer at the time while she was incarcerated.
Yep.
Where had you been living?
At my house. That's where I currently live now, with my girlfriend.
With your girlfriend. She wanted you to stay in her trailer?
Yeah.
With your girlfriend?
No. She wanted me to be there so she can keep up with me. That was a means of me having her phone and being in her car and being other thing would be a way for her to keep up with me while she was incarcerated.
And did you like that idea, Mr. Moore?
Not
Just
really.
a second.
No.
I mean, did your girlfriend like that idea?
Not at all.
So why didn't you say to her, I don't want your phone and I don't want any responsibility? Shh, listen to me. I'm living with my girlfriend. We're not an item anymore. And I don't want that tie because my girlfriend knew that I was staying sometimes in your trailer and not being home. That wouldn't be a good thing. So I'm not going to take your phone. Find somebody. Who are you?
Andrew Porter. I'm her son.
You're her son. Mm-hmm. Is there anything wrong with you?
No.
Do you talk to your mother?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you work?
Yes.
Yeah. So your mother could have given you her phone and said, pay the bills.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
You can stand next to your mother.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting more fascinating by the moment.
Jill Wyatt claims her ex-boyfriend, John Moore, misused money she gave him while she was in jail. John is countersuing for a false arrest.
So, do you understand, Miss Wyatt? I know that you thought it was going to be easier when you came here.
No, I did not. But
I'm very glad, because I have a feeling I could scratch the surface and I'd find more dirt. The more I scratched.
You would.
The more I scratched. Well, I have no intention of spending my life on this nonsense, because now I see that you have a perfectly normal child, an adult child, to whom you could have assigned the task of paying your bills. And I assume that you trusted him more than you trusted this guy, who seems to have a girlfriend, but then, it can be convenient. He can go here.
It's never painted that way when it's in the midst of things, but he...
Yeah, I also work out of state.
What?
I work out of state. I'm like a field engineer, so I'm only in Michigan maybe a couple weeks at a time.
That's okay.
I mean,
paying your bills doesn't mean that you have to be in Michigan. You can pay your bills, and you could have done all of those things, except anyway, this is your case. You allege that Mr. Moore took money out of your account, a couple of $1,000.
$781 of that he gave to me while I was in jail, but the remainder he can't account for anything that he did.
So somebody did put in your commissary?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, he said he also sent you, there was $600 in the account when he gave the phone back to you. Was there $600 in the account when you were released from jail?
The date of that?
What's the date of it, sir?
She asked the question, but the answer did I give it to her? I don't have it. I didn't know I was going to come to court, so I didn't. But if I look at my phone, I'm quite sure because all our transactions were via Cash App.
What do you mean you didn't know you were coming to court? Where did you think you were coming today?
When we were in this situation, never did I think we would be sued.
Oh.
So I wasn't keeping tally.
But now you know you're coming to court, so it would seem to me if there's an allegation in your answer that I returned the phone to her, there was still $600 in the account, at least I would have that document.
Give me a second, I can get right to it.
I can give you a second.
I believe that amount was for the August rent on it.
Just a second. All I'm asking you is, did he put $600 when he gave you the phone? Was there still $600 in the account?
No, that was like a month after. That was for August.
What do you mean it was for August? What does that mean?
For the August rent. This whole thing with not living with me and not being with me or whatever is untrue. When I got out of jail, we were supposed to be working together, living together. This was no anything like he's describing with having somebody else or anything like that.
I would like to see, Mr. Moore, when you gave her back the phone, that there was $600 on the phone.
It's her phone. I'm not sure.
Just a second.
I'm saying I don't have evidence of her phone.
Okay, now.
But I gave, if you asked her, she'll tell you I gave her $600.
You say that the money that you used, and you acknowledge that you used some of the money, was because you drove her car for a half a block.
Nope, it was more than a half a block.
Well, just a second, let me see.
It says that.
Just a second. I drove her car 1 block to my job. So it wasn't a half a block. Just a second. I drove her car 1 block. I apologize, it wasn't half a block. Put your hand down. To my job when she was in jail, and the alternator went out, and it was impounded. Now explain that to me. You drove her car, you had your own. For some reason, you drove hers. Why don't you give me a one sentence as to why you drove hers?
One sentence.
One sentence.
On my truck, I had my equipment, my lawn equipment, and I was just going 1 block away, so I didn't want to have to turn it around. And the car was impounded at my job, 1 block away from my house.
Why was it impounded?
Because it stopped on it. The alternator stopped.
Just a second. Cars aren't impounded because an alternator stopped.
The alternator stopped in the middle of the street. I couldn't move it. They had to tow it because it was in the driveway. They towed the car because the alternator stopped.
What you said? Well, that's your fault, sir.
It's my fault her alternator went out?
Yes, sir. It's your fault that the car was impounded.
I'm listening. No, I'm really trying to understand.
I want you to listen. Yes, it's your fault. And I don't know what other nonsense there is here, but if Sarah was driving her car and it stopped running because the alternator went out, I'm going to take a guess and I'm going to say, Sarah, what would you do if your car stopped running in a driveway, blocking the driveway? What would you do?
Call AAA.
Call AAA. Call a tow truck. And you would call a tow truck and ask the tow truck to take it to a
auto repair shop.
To an auto repair shop. Your first clue would not be just to leave the truck there and say, send it to impound.
No, it happened.
Just a second. Mr. Moore, please try not to test yourself on the dumb scale. Nobody who's responsible because a car breaks down leaves it in the middle of the road to be impounded. That doesn't make sense. It's illogical. Second thing I'm concerned about is when your car is impounded, in order to get it out of impound, which you say that you did, you have to show proof of title.
Yes.
Yes. Now, how did you get proof of title?
Because I had the title. I had the title.
Just a second. I hear the wheels. I hear. You have the title because?
I had access to her house.
Well, the title is in her name.
Right.
They wouldn't give you the car. You're not her. I mean, I would look at you and I say, not even close. Unless she gave you authorization in writing to get the car out for her, no impound service is going to let you take her car because anybody can pick up a title and say, I want that car out. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you want to try that again with me?
Here's my question. I end up getting
No, just a second.
Okay.
I want you to tell me where it was impounded.
It was impounded at my job. It was impounded and it was in a place that was a high traffic. I walked back to the house.
I want to tell you something. You wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face, Mr. Moore.
That's what happened.
You wouldn't know the truth if it came up and slapped you in the face and introduced itself to you.
Okay.
Now, how much did it cost to get the car out of impound?
It cost me $1,000 total.
No, it didn't cost you anything because she took it out of her phone. Didn't cost you. It cost $1,000
to get it insured, retitled, so I could have the ability to get the car out.
Well, how did you get her name on the title?
What you mean?
What do you mean, what do I mean? She has to sign it over to you in order to...
It was already signed over to me. It was already signed over. It was already signed. I sell cars, Miss Judy.
You don't sell cars. You just told me that your car broke down on the way to your place of business.
Yes, to my job.
On your job, and your job is not an auto mechanic or salesman for a car service, which is what you told me. I sell cars, Miss Judy. That's why the title was turned over to me, signed over, and I managed to get the car titled in my name. You want to try this on for me?
Judge Judy, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you, but I was in a situation where it was impounded. They were charging $30 every single day, and she would have lost her car. So
just say you
forged. Just a second.
No, I didn't.
Just a second.
I didn't forge anything.
Well, you had to have forged something, sir, because if it was in impound, and what you're saying is they were charging $30 a day, she was going to lose her car. Your next statement was, because you keep digging that hole a little deeper and a little deeper, you couldn't get it out because the car was in her name, not yours, but you had the title because you had access to the trailer, which is what she's suggesting, and you went and forged her signature, got a new title, got insurance, and the car was clearly towed, but you got it out of impound, that's what you said, with a new title in your name and insurance, also, I assume, in your name.
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do with the car?
Gave it back to her when she got out.
Just a second. You gave it back to her. Did you sign over the title?
Yes.
Shh.
Jill Wyatt has accused her ex-boyfriend, John Moore, of stealing her money while she was in jail. John is countersuing, claiming Jill had him falsely arrested.
Now, did you sign over the title to her?
I signed over everything to her because she sold the car since then.
Oh, did you sell the car?
Since all this?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. But he's...
I'm what?
He's what?
I had to go through police department and the sheriff's department and threaten him in order to get my title back. He would not give me back my title.
Not at all.
Do you have any proof of that?
Any proof of?
That you had to go through the police department, sheriff's department, or anything else in order to get your title back? Do you have any proof of that at all?
I don't have any proof of that, ma'am.
Okay. So it was $1,000 for impound that he took out of your account.
Correct.
That's $1,000.
No.
And
okay.
Did you take out $1,000 from her account to get it out of impound? Well, you just said, show me that you paid $1,000 to get it out of impound.
I can't show it to you because all the paperwork was in the car.
Did you pay impound by credit card or
paid
cash?
It by cash.
Cash. Then you would have taken cash out
I had a job, Judge Judy. I made
you're so full of baloney, sir.
I did have a job, Judge Judy.
You're so full of baloney. Okay, $1,000.
Okay.
Next, you say in your answer, Mr. Moore, that you paid for it. You paid for it out of our money. You say in your answer you paid for it out of our money.
Judy, that's kind of going back and forth.
Listen.
We've split money back and forth. If I give you a copy of our Cash App, it's the exact same money back and forth over the last couple of years. I send her money, she sent me.
Just a second. Why would she do that, sir, if you have a girlfriend?
I'm monogamously challenged.
Listen. Why would you do that back and forth if what you said to me earlier was, I don't know what she's talking about. I live with my girlfriend in the same place as I'm living now. Now let's move on to, so far I have $1,000. And I really, Miss Wyatt, don't understand anything else. And I'm not spending any more time with your case. That's the person who should have been taking care of your business, not this nonsense.
Yes.
Not this nonsense, because I'm not exactly sure whether I'm getting the whole story from this side either. All right, now you have a counterclaim. Your counterclaim is for $2,000 for having you falsely arrested.
Yes, ma'am.
Let us move on with falsely arrested. After she gets out of jail, according to what I read, the two of you are kaput.
No.
Well, okay, here we go. We're going to go back to your answer and your counterclaim, sir. I'm going to read you what I said. On February 13th, I went out to a few bars to have a good time. Jill was at a different bar, but came and met me where I was at. Upon arrival, you're not paying attention.
Yes, I am listening to you.
Upon arrival, Jill started to pressure me to leave with her. I reminded her that we were no longer an item, and I didn't want to leave. She was making a scene, so we went outside to finish our conversation. That's your counterclaim. Now, Pick it up from there. That's what you wrote. Try to
I wasn't
remember.
going anywhere.
Okay.
And then she told me, I'll show you. But you told me this thing's, Judge Judy, if it's not accurate, would you want me to let you go ahead? Because I didn't write that. I signed it to them. They told me I'd be able to explain this to you as we're doing this here. I stopped and said, hell no, that didn't happen. No, we didn't fight. It wasn't one block. They said, you'll get a chance to explain that to the judge.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't listen to anybody else. So when you sign a document that says, Flash Moore, being duly sworn, deposes and says that this is accurate.
We didn't live together. We still
Would you mind telling me what happened in the bar on February 13th?
She told me she was going to get me locked up for domestic violence because I had assaulted her. I had not assaulted her. I told her whatever, and I walked back into the bar, sat down, the police pulled up, and they said, sir, would you come step outside? Excuse me. They said, would you come step outside? I stepped outside. They said, put your hands behind your back. We're locking you up for domestic violence.
May I please have a copy of your complaint?
I can give you all this, what I have from...
Don't give me all that you have.
So you saying the complaint, I was arrested on the spot.
There was a disposition in that case.
Yes, they dismissed it.
Okay.
This is all complaint to the disposition.
Oh, here we go. The case was dismissed in the interests of justice because you agreed to pay her restitution for just a second. Yep. That's what you agreed to pay her restitution in the amount of $246, which I assume represents the broken eyeglasses that she says that you broke. This says receipt of restitution monies. Same case. I, John Moore, state that I have delivered a check in the amount of $246 to the Calhoun County Prosecutor's Office. It is my understanding that this check represents the amount of restitution that is owed to the victim, according to the agreement entered into by the defendant. So you paid restitution.
Excuse me. Judge, I'm trying to, if you say something, I want to clarify.
Just a second.
Go ahead.
Did you sign this?
When I can talk.
Did you sign this?
Yes, ma'am.
Then you're cooked.
So if
it's over.
I got a question for you.
No, I don't answer your questions.
If I get off of work, I've been in this court case 5 times in a row. It cost me $200 and some to come to court, and they said we'll dismiss all charges. There'll be no charges at all if you agree to pay $250. I've paid $800 coming to court. So why wouldn't I just say, hey, here, I'll pay you the money, and then try to sue you for false arrest? Because I never heard, where's the glasses at? Where's the picture of the glasses? The police arrested me on the spot.
Mr. Moore, like a perennial victim, I really feel sorry for you. Your counterclaim's dismissed.
So if I'm getting arrested for doing anything, why wouldn't I pay $250?
It's dismissed. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Your counterclaim's dismissed. I am finished with this case permanently.
Thank you. Have a great day.
This court is adjourned.
It went just like I thought it would be.
I'm pleased with the results.
She's mad. I don't want to deal with her anymore.
My guards are up now.
Hey, she wanted to get her day in court. I can leave with it.
Not ask anybody for help.
She the one was locked up for. I've never been locked up for stealing. She was locked up for stealing. That's the thief. The pot calling the kettle black.
Just to be careful who you trust.